Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Jana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Happy Tuesday. It is always a pleasure to be in this space to talk about boldness, to talk about greatness. So welcome to the Bold Show tonight with me, your host, Marie Dunn. As I said before, it is always a pleasure to be here. But tonight, I'm super, super excited because last week's guest, this phenomenal woman, businesswoman, she is just a dope soul. She is so in touch with who she is internally and externally. She's been flourishing so much in the business world. I am just going to let her speak for herself tonight, but I could not allow her to not come back because I felt there is so much to this woman. There's so much to this queen that I had to have her back tonight because last week we pretty much like really delved into who she was as an individual, exclusive of her business mind. So tonight, without further ado, because we have so much to unpack, I urge the viewers to get your pens and your papers ready because you may want to take notes because this is a much needed conversation, especially in our Black and Brown communities. So without further ado, I am going to welcome the one and only Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Marie. And I love to be bold.
Yes.
And so I'm looking for the opportunity. Thank you for having me back.
It's indeed a pleasure. And, you know, when we talk about bold looks a lot different for a lot of people, right? But I think that you represent so much for Black women, right? And I want you to unpack with us tonight and like really share, you know, at points in your life. I'm not sure I'm going to ask, have you ever struggled or had an issue with self-doubt?
Of course.
Okay.
And
we'll start there.
Yeah, I guess it's more so as I could think about a few times. It's especially when I was a young girl and my mother threw me into piano school and I always want to be the best that I can be. Not the best of anybody else, but the best that I can be. And I had some challenges playing the piano, but we were a group of 6 Black young girls who played classical music. And we got certified by the New York School of Music and got a chance to play in Carnegie Hall. And I was scared, and I didn't think I would remember everything. And I have pictures of, you know, the pensiveness and certifying in front of the New York School of Music. And I didn't think I could do it because I was challenged by other people who were a lot stronger than I. in playing the piano. That was my first experience of a little doubt. And my mother said to me, if you think you can't, you won't. And if you think you can, you will. So that started the realm. But in my lifetime, I have truly been a follower of the spirit and didn't even know it as a young girl and then heading out. Everything has opened the door. Basically, spirit has opened the door for me, and I chose to walk through. And a lot of times I would say is I didn't even know what I was doing. I just was walking through, you know. The whole element of going to Wall Street, that was a need. And so the door opened up. I drove people crazy. The door opened up. And when the door opened up, I walked through. And some of the things, just like one of my stories that I tell about coming into Omni Mutual on to Wall Street, I got the opportunity for the interview. And then I got there. Matter of fact, you know, it's truly something when you walk on faith, because the gentleman who was giving me the introduction gave me an envelope and said, don't open it. Now, how many people gonna walk into another place with an envelope that you don't know? It could say "kill her," but I walked into that building at 2 Wall Street, and before I got my interview, God would have it, a little pesky man. That's what I could think of him now, but he was a broker, and he walked up to me and said, "Oh, we got a new secretary." I had an attitude. I said, no. She says, oh, you one of them college students, you know, you think you know everything? And I was like, no, I'm more than a college student. And I had an attitude with him, but then he says, well, what are you here for? And I first wanted to say, why don't you mind your business? But instead, God would have it, I said, I'm here to work as come into the company. And so he says, as what? I said, well, as a broker. And he said, you? He said, oh, they're going to put you on the bond desk, you know, because you're a woman. Nobody takes that serious.
Wow.
So I said, he says, you know, full service brokers really trade. So that gave me the answer. So when I got to the owner of Omni and he asked, what did I want to do? See, that would have happened if I didn't have that conversation. I would have said, I don't know. I want to be at a desk. No, I walked in with confidence saying, I want to trade. I want to be a broker, a full service broker. So, you know, the people talk about, you know, God in their life, a spirit in their life. But there's a song out there from the movie The Help. And it's a Mary J. Blige song, and it says, I'm the living proof. That's what I'm the living proof that if you walk by faith and not by fear,
Yes.
you will conquer or you'll move forward. You might look around and say, how did I get here? But the Almighty has never let me down.
Awesome. So I hear you say that you are very obedient from listening to you. Obedience is key.
And it's
And you
not
just
easy.
allow yourself to follow the path. Sometimes we don't something we want to stress here tonight. You never have to understand what's going on. Just trust the process and keep moving. Don't stop.
Don't
So
stop.
don't stop. So I was reading a little bit more about you because I was really curious after we spoke last week, and I knew this week's interview, our conversation was gonna like really delve into the business mind that you are, the money woman that you are. You know, like you're dubbed the queen of finance, right?
Yes.
And for over 35 years, you are actually the founder for Anaj Enterprise. Why don't you talk to me
Correct.
about that?
Anaj Enterprises?
Yes.
Oh, sure. That's my baby. Anaj Enterprises started off as being Woodhouse Income Tax Services. And I started by trying to help someone. My high school teacher, bless his soul, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Leroy Henderson. He was the only Black teacher in my school. And the school wasn't a very large school either. It's Bedford Park Academy. Yoo-hoo to all the dragons out there. And I we were in a typing class, and he was very upset. And we had a time test, which is when you type and see how fast you type. That was back in the days.
Yeah.
And he came in, and he was so livid. But I asked, could I help? I don't know why, because I could have sat there and totally ignored the situation, but I didn't. And I was able to, he says, yeah, you can, but how good are you at math? So there goes the doubt. But therefore, when I looked at him, I had confidence because, again, I was excellent in math. I had the Regent scholarships. And so I was like, are you kidding me? You know? So I pursued the opportunity to help him, which was a tax office. I did not ask where the office was. I just jumped in and said, I want to be. So I came back to the school after I had graduated, which was that same year. And he took me into the library and started to train me on how taxes were done. That was back in the days when you did them by hand. And funny as it is that I never asked him where the office was. Anybody who knows about New York area, I lived in the Bronx. I went to school at Fordham University, the Bronx, and he had an office in Brooklyn, Brownsville. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I ran to my mom, my little 18-year-old self, ready there and said, I don't know what I got myself into, but I want to go. I want to go. So her answer, and this is why it's so important to have support. My mother said, sure, you can do it. 2-hour ride, going to Brooklyn, 6:00 in the morning. I'm coming with you. And I was like, oh no, that's not how it works. I'm supposed to show that I'm independent. And she says, yeah, you can be independent, but you're not traveling that train by yourself.
6:00 in the morning.
And so she did travel with me. She and Mr. Henderson got along real well. And they talked while I worked. And so 2 years later, the opportunity came for me to buy the business. I was 19 years old, and I bought it. My mother, again, bless her soul. Burma Woodhouse was a force to be reckoned with. And she said, if you're going to buy it, be serious that this is what you want to do, because this is a responsibility. And so I did. I bought it. She signed for me because I was 19 years old at the time. And at that stage, before they made the age of majority, it was 21. And I didn't really have the right to sign by myself. It's okay. My mom did. And so that was the beginning of Woodhouse income tax business. But then a friend of mine, we were joking around, and I was teasing him about this girl that was trying to get to him. It wasn't real. It was just a joke. So when I wrote a card and he got a card in the mail, we just joking. And what I did was I switched my name around and made it ANAJ instead of, and so I signed it so that, and the joke was until he looked into the mirror and said, wait a minute, are you the person? So I burst his bubble because he was all excited that he was going to have this new girl. But then I looked at it and I said, that's kind of cool, Anaj Enterprises. That sounds great. And if Oprah could do it, I could do it. So that's how Anaj Enterprises came about. And just the fast forward, it was during the 80s. And so I wanted my clients, again, trying to help. And I wanted my clients to have the opportunity to invest just as well as the wealthy have always invested, but they weren't getting that benefit. And I didn't know why. So that's how I decided I was going to go to Wall Street. And that was another situation where God stepped in again. We had just gotten cable. And on the cable station, everybody else watches all the movies and stuff. I was watching the stock exchange. And I was like, how do I get there? I want, that's power. And nobody knew how to tell me how to get there. I didn't have any friends or family that worked on the exchange. I didn't have anybody who knew anything about the exchange. So I needed that opportunity to ask folks. That's what I do. When I need something, I go and ask. And so I asked, and that's what you're supposed to do. So that's what I do. And that's what I would say to young people today. Don't make a judgment, go around and ask. So I asked, and finally, one of my friends found a position working for a mutual fund company. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to trade. I don't know what that is, but I know I want to do it. So that's what I kept talking and talking. And one of my friends and associates that I was working with said, if I get you an interview, will you shut up? And I said, yeah, sure. I won't ask again. I won't ask you again, but I'm going to ask. So he did get me the interview. And in that, I was able to go to Omni Mutual and get a chance to get the job.
Awesome. So, in our conversations that we've been having thus far, the word confidence keeps coming up.
Mm.
So, to our Black women and also to our Black men who probably is struggling, what message would you give them about developing that confidence and even overcoming that fear of thinking that they're not good enough, especially in the business world as a woman?
Oh, definitely. One of the things that I would suggest, and it's going to sound a little strange because this is how I was raised, is you look in the mirror and see who you see. Don't go through looking at, the external. Who is this in front of you? And I remember, my mom knew that I was coming in this world that would be a challenge. And a lot of it because of my external, how I looked. And so she would take me into the bathroom and make me look in the mirror. And she would say, who's my princess? Who is my lovely princess? And, at first I thought as a kid that was really weird, but I knew the answer was, I am.
Hmm.
And so whenever it came down to the times of being confident, the only way you're going to get that confidence in yourself is from the Grand Lodge of Wa'at. I live by the Kemetic Sciences. And at that time, I wasn't living by the Kemetic Sciences, but I found out the first law in the Grand Lodge of Wa'at, and that's in Thebes, which is another name in Egypt, is man know thyself. That's your first law. If you don't know yourself, someone will take you down, or they'll tell you who you are. And you will try to live by something that's false, something that you're not. So it's important to know who you are. And as my mom used to say, and I know I talk about my mom a lot, but she is such a mirror right now in my life because I've been through some challenges. I'm going through challenges. And she said, if you're not afraid, she says, look, don't be afraid of the forky tailed devil. If you're not afraid of the forky tailed devil, who else are you going to be afraid of? Fear not.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the fear. Now, at times, yes, it gets a little bit shaky, and I'm doing something new that I don't really quite understand which direction I'm going on, but Spirit and I co create together. And so when I get an idea, I work on it. And if it's to be, it's going to be up to me. So that's why, what I would say to everyone, male, female, and especially people, Black and Brown people, don't let anybody else define you. Don't
Mm,
let that happen because they don't know who you are. They've not walked in our shoes. And until you walk in our shoes, to have the experience of walking into a room and before you've said a word, someone has already decided what or what you're going to do. They're going to define you. We had done with our Wealth Wave group, which is a financial service uh, education company, and someone said to me that it's not about a black or a white thing; it's a green thing. I just don't believe that because I don't believe we've ever had an equal playing field
mm,
for it to be just a green thing. When you have the disparity in the racial wealth gap, where a white community can save $200, and in the Black and Brown community, we're averaging somewhere around $2. And
mm.
so it's a great disparity.
Yep, huge
And
gap.
and until we speak on it confidently, you know, I know we shy away from talking culturally, but I believe culture is everything. Everyone talks about their culture. And then, you know, we through the years have tried to shy away from our culture. Well, you got to look at me. There's no question. You know what's standing in front of you. As my mama used to say, as big and black as I am, you can't miss me. You don't see me. You know, um, yeah, you're going to see me. And I remember in undergrad, I wrote a thesis, and it was on Plessy versus Fergus, our color conscious society. And I know our children think that that's not really in existence. Yes, it is.
It is.
And we have to realize how to work through it. The honor that I had to awarded the well, now that's cute. I was getting ready to say wealth something. The Wall Street Pioneer Award
Yeah.
was an honor, and it stabilized me. It put me in a position of where I could stand up proudly and say, yes, I've traded on Wall Street. I have helped my people, and I don't have to be acknowledged by anybody else. My folks acknowledged me. That's what's important.
Wow, that is really powerful. I'm sitting here and I'm just listening. And so, also, I want to say hi to Renee. Yeah, you're absolutely right. She says, Know thyself. Thank you for tuning in. Um, but I'm sitting here, and when I think about racial inequality, and when I think about how we as Black folks, again, going back to culture, our kids, you talked about your mom so much last week, and here you are again. You're talking about mom because your mom was your biggest support.
For
And
real.
she gave you the opportunity to be whomever you want. You talk about the affirmations, right? And
Yes.
really instilling in you that you are worthy and you are capable of doing anything that you want. I know doing more research, education, and financial information, economic growth and wealth, that's what you pride yourself on. Why don't you talk to us concretely tonight about steps that we could implement within our household? And I know I also have this book, How Money Works. Let's talk money and let's talk about how we could help our Black and Brown people to get out of that hole and that mindset.
But that's what the key word you just said is mindset. We have in our community basically affirmed the words of lack. We don't have this. They stop us from doing this. We can't do this. Okay, we need to change that around. Words sound power. My brother Matt and I had a company. We still have a company called Hottest Poets, and it is truly about the power of the word. I had the greatness of having the idea, and Matt made it happen, that we put a poet on every corner of 125th Street. And we saw the evidence of the change in the energy, because we had a tendency walking through 125th Street. It was the most depressing thing to see. The people walking with their heads down, and that wasn't what it was years ago. People strutted on 125th Street, but when we were there, it was really depressing. And we changed. So I know words make a difference. We need to have the money conversation. We need to teach our children. We need to talk. We need to be proud enough to say, I don't know anything, but not be embarrassed by it. But just know, I don't know how money works. Well, fine. Here's someone and my group of people who are working that book. And I give that book to anyone who reaches out to Anaja Enterprises Inc. at gmail.com. And if you send a note saying, I want the book, you got to give me your address, but I will mail it because it's a physical book. But you've got to promise to read the book. They said that if you want to hide something, put it in a book.
Yeah.
Because we don't read.
Don't read.
But this book is so easy to read. It's it shouldn't take you more than an hour, even though I've seen folks who have taken longer than an hour, but it shouldn't take you more than that. And the characters are hilarious. And now we're coming out with how money works for women. Yeah, see, that's it. It's easy. It's written basically for someone who's like 10 years old on. So don't get insulted because it's simple. Embrace it because it's simple. And then this way you are going to externalize it, and then you're going to internalize it. Because if we know how money works, we need to start to implement it and start the savings. I remember years ago when I started in school, I was like in first grade, there used to be a bank, and we could put as little as 25 cents in continuously. Now, shameful a little bit is I still have that account. It changed from the St. Anthony Credit Union to BethX, but it's still my account. But putting a little bit away, teaching children that saving is good. If you give them an allowance, then get them to learn how to budget. These are the things that we need to do in our community. And it's not just for the children. I remember when I got my very first job, because my mother wanted me to work for the city of New York. So I got a job. Even though I owned a tax business, I had a job. Okay. Yeah. So I went, but when I would get my paycheck, I would make all the women in our group, we were statistical analysts. That's what our job was, to recoup children, the monies that were due for for children being in under the service, civil service, being what is it, the dependent children, something like that, the group. And it was those who were in care, foster care. And we would count the money that the city was losing because they couldn't find the kids where they were placed. And I would get my paycheck and I would get these envelopes. And I would put money in, everything had a purpose. I had the rent, I had to pay my phone bill. We didn't have cable at the time. So and that's how they used to laugh at me. But then people started to follow because they said, you're saving. Saving come first. I work hard. I should, get something for the fruits of my labor. I donate to charity and
Mm.
I get back. Those are the things that we need to learn. Sometimes we need someone to work with us, and that's where a financial educator comes into play, is to help you to be accountable. So you learn to count and then you be accountable. And that's important. Why? Because if you've got to see me every 6 months and you haven't saved what you were supposed to save, you're not going to look to see me, but you're going to have to come in front of me. And we're going to figure out why you're not saving. Why are you not building for your future? And that's important because you can't count on anyone else doing something for you. You have to, if you want, and it's really not about materialism. It's about comfort, and it's learning how to invest, not be afraid of the stock market because you're in the stock market, whether you know it or not. Did you buy a soda? Okay, that soda is connected to some company. You know, I had a young man, and I'm sure he's a ripe young man now. He's a grown man now, but years ago, his he sat in front of me with his mom, and it's what children see. It's
Mm.
what they retain. And so, what do we show our children? When we need to get money out of the bank, what do? We say, hold a minute, we're going to go stop at the bank and we're going to take out some money. Okay, where was the lesson to connect the money to that card that you're using? Where was that lesson? It's not there. So, this young man said, when he listened to me sit with his mother, he said, I don't understand this. I said, but what don't you understand? It doesn't, he says, this doesn't make any sense. When I turn 18, I'm going to get the money card. And when I get the money card, I just go to the bank and I take the money out.
Mm.
So he was a little bit upset when we told him that there's something else connected there. It's called mommy or daddy goes to work every day. They put the check or the money goes into the bank, and for them to get it out, they use the card. Well, I burst his bubble, but he sure knew that he said, I'm not getting the money card when I turn 18. I said, no, sweetie, you can have a money card, but you're going to work to get that, put some money in there. It's not just magic. So we have to talk to our children. And I love talking to the kids and letting them know, this is not hard. I remember going to talk at Kips Bay School, and I had a few eighth grade, well, 8-year-olds. These were 8-year-olds, and that little girl that stood up, I looked, had at least $1,000 on her body, full of designer stuff, and I was like, wow. And I told her so, and so she says, well, my mommy said we want good stuff. And so I said, well, that's good. And you should have good stuff. And you don't have to carry someone else's name on it. It can be your name. And those are the things that we need to plant those seeds, because I've had adults tell me, well, I have to have the Louis Vuitton or the red bottom shoes. My philosophy of red bottoms, I know someone's going to get me for this, but so go get some paint, get some red paint, paint them red, and pay less for them. Or, if you're going to get a Louis Vuitton or, a Gucci, whatever, well, it's a nice little trip that you can take to go to Italy or to France. And you can probably get those bags for about $15, but you've made a trip. Just the way to think about things. Just think, why are you making other people rich when you could make yourself very rich and very comfortable? As a matter of fact, Thursday, if someone sends me an email, I'll be glad to give them the link. We're going to talk about building wealth, building generational wealth. And a few of my associates out there are doing a Zoom presentation just to teach. And it's about how money works and
Mhm.
how you can have today's child can be tomorrow's millionaire only if you put a little bit away at a time. If you wait, the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to get that to that level. But if you're in your 20s, and anybody who's hearing me now in their 20s, if you work it right, you could put away almost like $100 a month, and you keep doing that to the time you're 67 years old with a
Hmm.
decent interest rate, you can have your $1 million. Now, will it be same buying power? Probably not. But if you talk to anyone who is 67 right now and they had $1 million in their hands, I think they'd be happy. That's why we play the lottos all the time.
I know, I know.
And
But
can I just say while we on the lotto, I just want to throw this out here. If you are playing and getting the lotto and you happen to hit, this is my recommendation to you. Don't tell
mm,
anybody. Nobody. I used to say tell one person. If you gotta tell someone, tell God. Don't tell anybody. But start to put together your team. Your team is your financial advisor, your attorney, and your accountant. That's your team. And before you go to collect it, make sure you sign the back of the ticket and then sit with your team. And it may take you a while to figure out what you're going to do, but there's lots of secrets out there what you can do. I remember some years ago there was a big lottery like it is now, and whoever won it sent their trustees because they had a trust, so they never were revealed. You see those little tidbits, little things to do, but you sit with your team depending upon what state occurs, and you can put yourself together where that money will go from generation to generation to generation.
awesome. So you talk a lot about giving back to community, Dr. B, and the importance of education and having these difficult conversations at an earlier age, because I think that is so important in our household, like having that conversation about money and the importance of teaching our children how to have a relationship with money.
Hmm.
When we think about money, I think one of the biggest thing in our disconnect as Black and brown individuals, it's that we focus so much and we prioritize on things that does not help to allow us to grow. Think about it, the analogy of food. We are what we eat. Whatever we put into our bodies, that's exactly what we're going to get out. So it's about the return. So I know August, it's National Black Business Month that's coming up, and it has to do with money and all that good stuff. So I'm just thinking out loud, like, what do you normally do as the queen of finance and someone who gives back to community?
Well, this August, of course, every year I'm usually at Harlem Week. I am a member of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, the largest chamber in this country. Um, and I'm doing a matter of fact on, I believe it's the August the 17th. Keep posted. We will be doing, I believe it's at Manhattan Pentecostal Church. We're in their area, their recreational area. And myself, and there's Dr. James, isn't that's terrible? Dr. James Wilkerson, and also Selwyn Farrell. We are representatives of the financial service industry. Why? Because we are fully licensed uh, and accredited, And our people need to see us because we understand what they're going through. So we will have a round table, and I know it's sponsored by Soul City. And we will be talking about how money works, and it's very important that during that month and every month, really, because following that, we have September, which is Life Insurance Awareness Month. And then there's Financial Literacy Month. I mean, there's something for everyone. But yes, it's right. It's the Black Wealth
It's
Symposium.
August
Uh,
17th.
right, the 17th of August. And it's important that during this time that we talk as much as possible, that we show what possibilities are. We usually in our community gauge people by the car they drive.
Yeah.
We don't even really care about where they live, but it's the car they drive, or the clothes that they wear. And that's can be a show. And that really comes from an African tradition. I know in Senegal, the women go to the marketplace, they are dressed to the nine. They got the gold all up the braces. So it's a cultural thing, But here we need to have a relationship with our money. We don't have a relationship. And just like what I said earlier, is that, you think about it. You work, you get paid. Okay, the check doesn't come to you. It's money deposited into a bank account. Mm. Then when you need to pay bills, you electronically send it out to other people. You still haven't touched your money. Okay. And then when you start to spend, or you do whatever your budget is, if you don't have a budget, you just spend. You have no relationship, so you give it away so easy. But if you had a relationship with it or you felt it, then you might keep it or try to figure out how to keep it. So I've been working on this book, and inside, I'm definitely trying to set it so that the middle page will tell what I believe people should do. I think they should cash their check. They should take all the cash out the check as soon as they get it. Throw it on the bed because most relationships are made in the bed. And then wallow in it. Get a relationship with this money. Okay, then let's see how fast you want to let it go. But that's my thought. Saving money can be fun. I remember I created a few different ideas, but it was easier to, what they say is, mimicking something is the greatest type of accolade to give someone. So I saw where on the internet they had where if you saved $1 for every week in the year, you would save $1,371. The problem was getting to week 40 on. Nobody wanted to keep putting $40, $41. They didn't want to do that. Okay. So then I went to an event and I was talking about the save the dollar or save for the quarter. And it was for Delta Sigma Theta. I was doing a presentation, one of the sororities. And one woman came up and she says, "Well, have you heard about hoard your fives?" I said, "Hoard your fives." She said, "Yeah. You know how fast when you break a $20 bill, if you've got $5, if they give you change, then it goes poof, it's gone. So instead, hoard your fives." I said, "Oh, that's kind of cute." She says, "Yeah, because I tried it. I had a $50 bill and the man gave me all $5 in change. And I told him, go find some tens in there so I wouldn't have to put it away." And I said, "Okay, this is kind of cute. Hoard your fives." And I said, now I even say, get your children involved in it because kids love to tell you what to do. So at the end of the day, whatever $5 you have, how many you have in your purse or your wallet, you got to put it to the side. And so they'll ask, "You got any fives?" And you roll them up. Before you know it, you have saved These are just having fun. Saving money can be fun, and I never like the word spend. You are not spending. Spending means that it's all gone, not coming back. You're circulating. We
Mm.
circulate the money. And we are. It's just unfortunate that we in our community don't circulate enough. In Black Wall Street, it took anywhere from 3 to 5 years for the dollar to leave the community. It was inside our stores. It was transferred amongst us. In our community, if it lasts 40 minutes, we in good shape. So
Wow.
we've got to also focus on, and my words are, we got to stop lying to our children.
Mm.
And the lie is, you're going to go get a good education. You're going to work for 30 years. Now that doesn't even sound fun. You're going to work for 30 years, and then you're going to retire, and they're going to give you half of whatever you were making.
Hmm.
Now, what kind of picture is that? Whereas, think about the power of owning your own business, something that you're here in God's world with a passion. And so now you turn that into earnings and profits. How powerful is it? And I say Uncle Sam deserves to get every dime that he deserves. It's just that there's not as much. You think about it, you make a profit, let's say $100,000 profit. Well, there are vehicles that you can put up to $52,000 away in your own retirement account as a owner of a business. And then guess what? You can borrow that money from yourself,
Hmm.
and it's still growing, but you can borrow it, leverage it, and pay payrolls and do whatever you have to do, but you're not paying it. As you notice, I didn't say anything about tax on that. So now you got about 50 some odd thousand or 40 some odd $1,000 in profit. Well, you got things that you need to do. And if you have a trust, you can maybe able to put it even in the trust. And if not the trust, then the foundation. I mean, there's at whatever's left, Uncle Sam can have. I think that's fair.
It is. It sounds fair.
But
But
these are the things that we have to be exposed to.
yeah. I think like I remember as a child, I used to say to my mom, it's so easy for you to tell me what to do, but the reality of
Oh, oh yeah.
actually getting it done can be such a
Mhm.
challenge. So we already know how our black and brown communities, just the way it's the system is designed. It's designed to keep us oppressed and for us to not have knowledge, and the scarcity mindset that we have. It's a part of who we are, right? I think out of curiosity, what message do you have to give to our community or just people individually who are probably just like really lost and struggling and just can't get a break?
Well, the first thing is the mindset. And if you think you can't get a break, you're not going to get a break.
Mhm.
If you embrace what's out here, I met a young man that was a perfect example of it. I would love to know where he is today, but he got incarcerated, which is one of those big things that happens in our community to our men. And then they can't get a job. They didn't say anything about they couldn't get a business. And what he did was he would go around, and as people would close up, especially like now, they would close up their businesses and they would have the surplus paper, surplus ink, all that kind of stuff that's part of your business supplies, and they would throw it out. He collected it and he would resell it
Hmm.
and made a great profit with it. I don't know what happened after that, but I do know what he did for our community was that he took some of that money and he asked people who had broken bikes to donate them to him. And he was fixing the bikes up, and he gave over 100 bikes to children in Brooklyn. See, that's what we got to think out of the box. Okay, because the key to it is to know, okay, they say you got to think out of the box. The key to thinking out of the box is to realize there's no box. You're creating your own box. You got to think out of it. When you can't, what they say is when they give you lemons, what you do, you make lemonade. Well, when you have a thought or a feeling, you got to act on it. Make it happen. And don't let anybody take and steal your dreams. It may sound weird to someone else. I'm almost certain, they tell the story about the Wright brothers and the flying machine. But they weren't the only ones who had the flying machine idea. There was many people, but people gave up on what was given to them by God. They didn't. And the same thing happens, the light bulb, all those things that come into your brain. Don't think that God is only downloading it to you. So you have to act on it.
Yeah.
And there's ways of doing it. And above all, do not be shy to talk to a financial advisor or financial educator. Take advantage. I believe it was put up there. I'm willing to give free financial analysis to anybody who wants it done. I have a team of people who will do it, and there's no obligation. Because some people are fearful, if I give you this information, then you're going to make me buy something. I don't want to sell you anything. I want to educate you. Because once you are educated, then you'll do better. You'll want to do better.
Knowledge is power.
That's right. And action is clean.
Amen. Amen. I absolutely love it. I think because I've had conversations with you in the past, right? And you've
Yes.
given me sound advice that really helped me. I think one of the things that we want to put out here tonight is that it's normal to feel ashamed of your past financial behaviors, right? Because, like we said, knowledge is power. You never know. But once you acknowledge that you need to do something different and we need to develop this relationship with our money, then you need to reach out to Dr. B. But I think
Definitely.
I want to ask you,
Mhm.
in your long history as a financial guru, can you share a story or just a situation where someone may have come into you to seek support, financial support, but they were probably just like really so overwhelmed and not really sure how to even start having that conversation? How did you put them at ease to feel safe enough to start sharing?
Well, one of the things that I do with individuals that come into my office is it's not about throwing a bunch of information at you. It's about listening. God gave us two of these and one of these. So I listen. I listen to where the person is, where they're uncomfortable. Then I can figure what I can do to help. But I had a situation of where the parents of this individual had set her up, her and her siblings, up to basically be financially set for life. And they destroyed it. They spent the money. They were destructive of the houses that they inherited. They owed back taxes on it. And she was ashamed. And I said, yeah, you should be. But now you got to forgive yourself. I made the mistake. I didn't do right. It's okay. That's why we have tomorrow. Okay. So I said, let's work on what the immediate needs are. And there were some things that they did right. But the key was we needed to save the buildings and to see what kind of assistance we could get to save those buildings. And we did. And then that showed that I cared. I wasn't trying to get them to put money into another vehicle and make money off of it. And then after that, then we started to do this. I'm going to curse now because everybody thinks it's a bad word. We did a budget. We did the budget. And she would have to come to me once a month. And it doesn't take long. Some financial advisors feel this is a waste of time, but it's not. And she would come to me and we would really budget out where the money was. And she's like, but I have a trip coming up. And I was like, that's nice. How much did you save? Well, I was going to, you're not going to anything. You can't go. Okay. It's just that simple. It's just like when you go to the doctor and the doctor first examines and says, okay, these are the places where you have your problem. Now, these are the things that can remedy this. But if you're not going to do it, don't waste my time. So, there have been times, but that young lady, the houses are saved. They're in a profit zone. So that's all that I need. Now, I'm trying to get her to save more. I haven't seen her in a while, but it's okay. I know in the back of her head is my little voice saying, you need to save more. You need to put something away for the rainy day. And so that's one of the examples of many that I've gone through. The pride in being a financial educator is not the finance and the money, because yes, we do make money. I'm not even going to put shade on it. We make money. There's nothing wrong with making money. But the pride that I have is, for example, I had a client of mine who was in a situation of domestic violence. And I lost touch with her, but she still remembered all the principles of what I set up for her. And when she was ready to retire, she went online and she found me. And she says, how many Jana Woodhouses could there be? And so I said, well, thank God for my mom giving me a different name than everybody else. And so she says, do you still do financial advice? And I said, yes. She says, well, I'm retiring and I need you. That's the fulfillment. That's the fulfillment. To someone appreciated what you did and what you instilled in them. And now they're financially free.
Maya Angelou, people will forget what you do or say, but they'll never forget the way you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So important. And, I get this aura. I talked about your aura last week, just this calmness about you. What would the matured woman of wisdom, what would you say to your 25-year-old self today? What would you say to her?
I'd probably say to her, this was going to be an interesting journey you're going to experience. You're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to learn from them. So just go for the journey. Just go for the ride. I probably would also tell her that take it a little slower. I did everything with the vengeance. I got to get it done, got to get it done. And sometimes I didn't, what they say, go down the road and smell the roses. And I think that's what I would say to her is that just take it a little bit slower, but realize who you are and keep to it and love yourself. Love yourself. You don't need someone else. It's wonderful when others love you, but if you don't love yourself, it doesn't make a difference. Love yourself and treat yourself well. And, I will throw this in is to take care of your health. I had a stroke when I was 25 years old. That's from lack of sleep, lack of eating right, And I made a promise to God. I said, if you could give me the usage of my left side again, I will not have on my epitaph that said she was good with money. It would be that she was good with people. And
Mm.
by the grace of God, I don't have any damage, but it was a scary road. And I was young and I thought I was invincible. Guess what? 25, you're not invincible. I know it. But that's one of the things I would leave with. This is that,
Awesome. You know,
take your time.
trust the process.
Yeah.
I have this burning question that I must ask you before we close.
Okay.
So, all of this conversation that's been going around with AI, artificial intelligence, what are your thoughts about the potential implications this could have in the business industry?
I think it can be a positive and a negative. Um, I think about the artificial intelligence and what we are, relying upon machines that we created. But machines have vibrations too. And so we have to be careful how much we trust. Like, for example, how many people have used the GPS and ended up in the river? Because okay, there's stories about, well, I was following the GPS. Yeah, but you didn't use your own spirit. And I see in the industry that there will be a lot of people who will follow the mechanical instincts that are out there. They're doing it now, but do something that's really important, which is have some common sense. Sit back and, does this make any sense? Should I do this? We always are looking for, especially in our community, the get rich quick. How do I
Uh,
make this money fast? And that's why I said slow and steady, because it's the old fable about the tortoise and the hare, taking step by step. I do see the necessity in it, but I don't think we should be relying upon it alone. And it is eliminating a lot of jobs.
Jobs.
But what we should be thinking about is, okay, what part of this do I play or can I play into to earn from it? For example, I'll never forget, I had a friend of mine who opened my eyes to government contracts. He didn't build guns, he provided the trigger and
Mm.
made millions of dollars off of the trigger. So, what is it in these electronic entities that need to be provided? Things need to be provided. Is it the wiring? Do you get into the wiring business? Do you get what entity can you play with this? And then can you find the solutions? It's one of those things that my marketing professor said when we were um, in class, and he said to everyone who was going for their MBA, how many of you are here that would get the MBA and think that this would be the way that you got a good job? And people raised their hands. Well, I owned a business already, so I really wasn't looking for a job. But but he said it so well. He says, you all need to leave the class. And I was like, why would he make them leave? He says, because if you're looking for a job and you are a master provides and creates jobs. They don't ask for one.
A great way to close this conversation. Dr. B, thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure. And my takeaway from this conversation tonight is like embrace our vulnerability and be honest with where we are with our relationship with money. And remember, we control our narrative and we should seek the help that we need and ask now. The time is now. And with that, it was indeed a pleasure to have you here tonight. Thank you so much. And folks, please reach out to Dr. B. You will get the help you need. I am living proof of what this woman does. Thank you and get your copy. Have an amazing rest of the night. to everyone in a productive week. Good night.
Good night.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.